no different. I'm going to show you the results before and after, and then I'll show you if you want to put one of these PWK carbs on your bike. I'll show you how to do it, how to tune it, how to set it up. So this bike was doing 49 on my GPS. 50. Here's our Amazon or 21 millimeter PWK. Now I'll say one thing for it. It looks cool. Looks a lot better than that CVK. It's got some good bling factor. So if it's the exact same performance, we'll still keep it. I'm gonna see how much faster we went.
Just a little push. Holy shit. You got some balls, stick jockey. I'll give you that.
That's badass. That's a 50cc, or I guess it's got the 90 kit, but doing 53 miles an hour. That's faster than most 150s that I've rode. So the 21 millimeter carb is definitely a great mod, a keeper, and made this bike a lot better. So you're gonna need a new cable for this mod. Cable, this goes into your throttle. It's got a threaded and a 90 degree. And this side goes to the carburetor, so it's a CVK carb. It's got the threaded end so you can adjust it. And it's got the big lead piece on it. So we need a cable for a Mikuni, PWK, key-in, smooth bore, flat slide. Doesn't really matter, just search it. Anything longer than 76 inches usually works. The same thing for your throttle. Hooks on right here. Get the little nub on it. And then threads into your throttle. And all these threads are the same size. That's a standard. So it'll work on your NCY throttle, your stock throttle. Then the other side though, fits a Mikuni. See how small it is compared to this this one here? Yeah, huge difference. So a little small one, and then it just ends in a cable. That's going to slide down on the top of the carburetor. Don't make the mistake and get this one. Same Mikuni side over here. That looks good. And you get the right length, but then this side over here slides into a whole different kind of throttle. But don't get that one. Be sure and get the right throttle end. The best way to search it is just put GY6 Mikuni throttle cable. It's got a lot of damn places to put hoses. I don't think most of them do anything. The one on this side over here, it comes out in a little hole just on top of the housing of the float bowl area. So I guess that's so if you tip over and fall down, the gas drains out. I don't think the one on this side does anything. And there's also some places to put them here. I think that big one right there must be the fuel in. Yeah, so several of those hoses don't even do anything. I think they're just for looks. I guess the idea is the more hoses you can put on it, the more it looks like a racing carburetor. So look at that baby. There, now we got a racing carburetor. When we're talking about jetting, keep in mind that a lot of this technology comes from two-stroke motorcycles. Now on a two-stroke, if you don't get fuel in the mixture, you burn your engine, because the fuel has the oil in it. When you put oil in a two-stroke bike, you're usually putting it in the transmission area. It's for the transmission and the clutch. The crank and the rod, the wrist pin, all that stuff, the piston, the rings, are all being lubricated by the oil in the fuel that you pre-mixed in there. Running lean gets very dangerous on a two-stroke. So we have our enriching jet. This is what's going to come on when we pull this red handle. It's like our choke. It's basically adding more fuel during the start phase. Once we turn the choke knob off, the enriching jet's closed. And this enriching jet's tiny, so these things clog easy. So this jet may be constantly cycling. It's getting its air from there. It's power, so it can be pulled up, vacuum. A little hole down in there, but that's not where the fuel's going. It's sucking fuel into here, and it's recirculating it somewhere in the bowl. Whenever you pull up on this, it brings the air. You gotta look in there. There's a tiny little hole beside the main jet, right beside it down there. It's teeny. And it's just adding fuel to that. So fuel will be coming out of there, enriching enriching the jet for starting, giving you a little more start feel. The idle jet, or the pilot jet. This jet's adjustable with the air idle screw valve. Let's see, this thing should start at a nominal of 1.5 turns out. That usually lives between 1 and 2 turns out. If you have to turn it out more to tune it, then you need a bigger jet. If you have to turn it in more, then you need a littler jet. But there's a pretty wide range of adjustment on that jet, so we don't really worry about that too much. And that pilot jet is just for idling and maybe just off the throttle stop. It really affects how it kind of takes off initially when you just give it throttle from sitting with your feet flat on the floor. And after you give it throttle and the bike starts moving, you come on to your needle jet. Your needle jet sits down in the main jet, slides up and down, and gives more or less gas depending on position, and that's really only for about the first 1/3 throttle. So this is very adjustable too. It's got clips on it. We can adjust how far up and down it goes, and then once we get going past 1/3 throttle, it's all main jet. That's the one that's not adjustable, and we got different main jets that comes with. It's only 3 here. It's good to have more. And you can tune your bike on the main jet for 1/3 throttle to full open throttle. So bikes run real good when they're lean. It makes them real crisp, it makes them real responsive, and they just run good. The issue with being lean is they don't get the lubrication if it's a 2-stroke. On a 4-stroke, that still wears them out quicker, and they run hotter if they're lean. So the idea is we're going to go ahead and run this lean so it starts and takes off good. We're going to run this lean so it actually accelerates good out of the hole. And the time we're in those areas are very short. So then once we're rolling, we're going to roll in that main jet, and it's going to be rich all the way to the top, and that's going to protect our engine in a 2-stroke or 4-stroke. So what in God's name is this thing right here? Tube goes on it, goes down to the float bowl. Looks like it's picking up fuel from right there inside the float bowl. So down inside there is a jet. That is a power jet. The idea was lean is fast. So I want to go super fast, but I can't lean the bike out because she'll blow up. So I need a way to richen this jet, this main jet, during acceleration, and still have a nice lean jet on top. So I add this jet, and it was basically an accelerator pump. It added more fuel during acceleration when you're in that open throttle mode. So you're running around at half throttle, and you stab the throttle to come out of a turn. Bam, it hits you with some fuel, and then you come off that throttle, it comes back off, and you're still in the main jet the whole time. But it means that this jet's always running also. And that's part of your main jet system. So now you might find yourself with a smaller main jet. So when you ask your buddy, hey, what size main jet do you run? He's running a 120. Well, you might be only running 110 because you're adding this to it also. Personally, I would cap this thing off and not even use it. I don't even get it. But on mine, it's not hooked up. But I'm doing this one on this 50. We're going to leave it hooked up, see what it does. Interestingly, here's the seat, so you can adjust that jet. And it looks like it works. Take it out and I'll show you. There's the design flaw with it. You can't seat that. It doesn't seat in that hole. You can't close this jet off. You're supposed to be able to close it off, adjust the opening how much bigger, but because that thing's slotted for a screwdriver, it doesn't even work. You always get air through it or fuel through it. So the fuel's got to come out of the bowl, go through there, go down into that jet. I should be able to close it off. There's full tight. You can see I can still blow through it. And we'll go full loose, we'll say. It's exactly the same, no difference. And because I'm not going to mess around trying to tune this thing, when I'm also trying to make it idle and stuff, I know this bike will run on the leanest jet. Any bike will. And looks like we got a 100 We got a 110 and a 115. What a variety. I like to make sure my float bowls shut off when they're supposed to. Perfect. It looks like the physical fit is perfect. That's one of those, you've seen these things on eBay. The shiny intake manifolds with the blue adapter on them. They're all over. Make sure you block that off. And if you're going to use a vacuum pump, you'll need this. But this will usually go to a hose that has a Y in it. The Y's up here somewhere because part of the CVK is on vacuum. You'll have a vacuum going from here to your pump. That should be one line with no lines going off of it. If there is a line going off of it, block it off, because this carburetor needs no vacuum lines on it. These may seem a little confusing if you're used to a Mikuni style smooth bore, these PWKs. But put your little boot on first, and then put your top adjuster on. Got a lot of adjustments. We got adjustment here, a couple of adjustments in line, adjustment on the throttle cable. That's not near enough coming out. Luckily, the NCY throttle cable or throttle has different positions, so I'm going to put it in the position that makes the cable the very longest. There we go. There's a little more slack in that cable. So then you put your spring and this white thingy on. Hold your spring up with this hand and then run it through there like that. And this is where it gets confusing because it's roundy here and it's flat here. When it goes in the slide, I think the roundy part's going to go on the flat side and the flat on the roundy part. So, but anyway, this goes through here, and this little nub just sits down in that groove right there, and that's it. Then you let your thing go down in there and your spring, and that holds it from coming out. See? Ensure that needle goes down in that emulsion tube or your main jet and doesn't just hit the side. If you hit the side, you can actually push the needle up against the spring pressure, and this thing will never work right. So it should slide down in there effortlessly. Effortlessly. I'm not sure that's a word. Screw your top cap thingy on here. Got this one overflow tube here, and don't really care where that goes, just get it out of the way. And we hook our fuel line up, and that's about it. Alright, the biggest to look for here is getting this out like that so it blocks your brake. We don't want that to happen. You want to make sure you have full brake travel wherever you, and I mean really squish that thing, wherever you decide to put this thing. The other issue is you'll give it gas and the throttle will stick open, usually because the rubber in there is binding with the handlebar. If that happens, just slide your throttle tube out some so it snaps back nice and crisp. This one's not real crisp. This is the bearing tube. It takes these really big hand grips. You can see how thick that is, and he must have found these smaller hand grips and forced them on, so they get littler down here at the end. And where they get littler, it was rubbing the handlebars and holding the throttle open. So it's going to be working pretty good now. You want a lot of play in this throttle. We'll adjust that all. That's going to be one of the last things we do. But you want a lot of play because you don't want this throttle cable pulling that slide open. That's going to make it impossible to tune, because you're going to be on the needle jet and you're trying to tune the low end jet or blah 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 and make it idle right. It'll never happen, because you've got this thing on the needle jet. You've got that slide up. You're actually idling it with a slide up. So now your idle has no control over the RPMs you want to idle at. Your air idle screw is actually not even working. I like to look inside the slide and then work that idle jet, or the idle adjustment, and make sure I have control. There it comes up, you see? It's coming up right now. I've got control of it. And it's coming down right now. I get it all the way out, so I know I've got control of that idle Look how far closed that goes. And that's good. That's what we want. If this cable is picking up in this idle, it's going to screw up everything. It's going to be running off that main jet, or maybe that needle jet, and it's going to throw off all your tuning. So yeah, a lot of play in the cable. So here's a mistake you can make. If you have this slack in your throttle, like I said, to put a lot of slack in your throttle, but if you get too much slack, and this can come out of here, that can get caught on the top of here and pull your slide up and keep it running real high. So you want slack in your throttle like this, but you want it actually where it's down in there, so just enough slack so this doesn't come out and get lodged up here. If you have a vacuum pump, you're gonna need to fill this bowl to even start this process, because you gotta get some gas in there. So yeah, fill your bowl to get the damn thing running, and then hope it runs. The nice thing about this electric pump is we're gonna pump it full of gas right now. Look at that. I'm gonna look for leaks. And float bowl rose up. You can still hear the pump going, but the gas has stopped. It's just maintaining that head pressure. No leaks, no gas coming out. Looks like it's all good there. So yeah, let's see if this thing runs. I'm gonna start it up. I'm gonna try to keep it idling with the throttle. I'm gonna try to get it to idle with this knob right here. Once I get it idling, we're gonna adjust the air fuel mixture and get it running good. We're gonna get the idle quality better. This is just the idle RPM. We're gonna try to get a good quality of idle on this thing. We're gonna do that for a little bit before we even drive it. Now that big red idle screw and this throttle do the same exact thing. They just move the slide up mechanically. So when you're trying to start with a new carburetor, you can use that throttle and open it. Treat this like your idle screw, just to get it running, and then try to dial it in with your idle screw. You should have play in this throttle once you get that idle screw, keeping the slide open enough to keep it running. You want to get the bike running and warm it up. Make all your adjustments with a nice warm motor. Some of the symptoms you'll have is if you need throttle to keep it running, then you can just turn your idle screw, this big thing here, up, and that'll basically add more throttle. If it only runs once it's warmed up with the enriching jet on, then it's wanting more fuel. So most likely you will need to richen up your air idle screw to fuel rich, which is counterclockwise, and that'll give you more fuel. If you get to a point where you've turned it out 2 turns to make it run better, then you probably need a bigger pilot jet. Idling on the idle screw. So I go up and down with this. idle kept getting better and better the further out we came. So it's idling really good right now, and it doesn't seem to be dropping off and getting worse. So we've got this idle jet fully open. That's why it's not going to get any worse. We've got it fully open. And I can already tell you we're out too many turns, but let's find out. We're out 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns. There's 3.5, 3 and whatever that is, doesn't matter. So the idle jet in here is too small. So we're going to adjust that idle jet. A bigger idle jet in here, but when we're driving around, this idle jet doesn't matter. So I'm not going to take this carburetor off just for that one jet and redo this. We got it running. Let's go ahead and play with the main jet. We'll get that main jet. Might as well see how it runs too. We can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can change that main jet and the idle jet whenever we make a main jet change. All right, running good. We know we're gonna increase that idle jet. Let's feel how the main jet feels. I've got it on 2nd clip from the top, so 1 position leaner than middle. Feels pretty good. Now we want to check the full throttle. It doesn't bog down. No bogging at all. We know it's not bogging out, so we know it's not too rich. Now what we want to do is just go do a main jet test. Take it out on the highway. We're going to open this thing up, full throttle, just see how fast we go. And it's a simple test of it's either going to be faster or slower. And then we're going to change the main jet accordingly. So I'm going to give it a run, see how fast it goes, come back, go 1 hit richer on the main jet, give it a run again. When I have it open, I'm going to go and replace that pilot jet 1 richer. I have to retune it. So I needed a bigger pilot jet or idle jet. I've got a 38 in there, and the kit came with these jets, the Carburetor did. So it came with a 35 and a 32, so that's no good. Luckily I have more. I've got a 40 and a 42 to go up for. I think I'm going to jump right to the, oh, I hate to do it, but skip 1. Let's see, 38, 34. Yeah, I think I'm going to jump right to that 42, just because I had that screw backed all the way out, and it wasn't falling off. So I'm going to go a pretty big hit on this one. Put the 38 over here. Now on the main jet, it had a 100 in it. The kit, or it came with a 110 and a 115. To go from 100 to 110, that's too big of a hit. You want to go to 105. So it's good if you have more jets. I've got a bunch of jets, and I've got a 105 here. I hate to jump more than 5 on a jet, because you might skip something that runs really good. You might jump to this 110, and it runs better than the 100, but it ran even better with the 105. So I'm going to go to a 105 first, and better or worse, then I'll go to the 110. I'll just keep working myself up. Okay, so we put a new pilot jet in it, so we're going to set this back. We're going to screw it in till it's snug, whenever seated. And then we're going to turn it out 1.5 turns. That's our nominal. That's where we're going to start. So 1.5 turns. There's 1 turn, and there's a half. And then we're going to repeat the exact same procedures we did before. I'm not going to bore you with that on the video though, but that's how we tune it in. See how this 105 main jet runs. Feel that I get a little bit of an off throttle stumble. And I thought it was that pilot jet, but since I went to a bigger pilot jet, it probably needs the needle lead to go down when I need to richen up that needle jet. So on the next pull apart, I'll do the needle jet also. Let's take off and check out how this works. temperature again on this pilot jet, but this is just a feel thing. I think the stumbling off idle was even worse with this new jet. So I'm gonna probably either lean this out here, I'll try that first, or go to a smaller jet. Now it could be the needle I'm feeling, and I've already got the needle 1 notch low, so 1 notch lean. I might raise it and see if I get a better or worse. And if I get worse, then lower it, then I can lower it down to the 1st notch and see if I get better or worse. So I'll treat that the same way. But we definitely know the main jet was worse, so we can go ahead and make an adjustment now to either the needle and or the idle jet, because we're going to be putting that main jet back to something littler than 105. Unfortunately, I don't have a 102 in here. Probably use it in something else. But we're going to be going back to this 100. Leonardo da Vinci said, great painting is never finished, just abandoned. I think Rembrandt might have said, you have to know when to stop. I think I'm about that point with this thing. Keep in mind, these are never going to run as good as your CVK carbs. These are racing carbs. These Kian, these PWKs, your Mikunis, they were all designed for racing applications. And they weren't too concerned about your smoothness of idle and things like that. And now we're getting into a Chinese knockoff of that racing carb. So, yeah, there'll be some glitches in it. And once you get used to running with a smooth board, it's just second nature, though. A lot of these carburetor tricks are just theories, and all the carburetors are different. So I could not get this thing to run good off throttle stop. I ended up going to way too lean of a jet. It just felt like it was rich. It was stumbling the whole time. So I went to way too lean of a jet down here, a 35, and I ended up turning this screw in to lean it out a little bit more. It may be out of 1 1/4 right now. So if I bring it out, it idles higher. But when it idles higher, I'm getting too much fuel in here, so it's stumbling and running rich. And I'm still having an issue with that off the stop stumble when I take off, but I've got it pretty good. I can turn the idle up and go past it, kind of trick the system. I don't want to do that just yet. But this has a good initial tune on it, and that's all it is initial tune. You'll be tuning your carburetor for about a year after you get it, till you get it dialed in just like you like it. But hell yeah, I'd say it's a good mod.